time, Yosemite National Park, a particularly dry winter, and actually pretty warm. So my daughter and I thought we'd take advantage of the uncrowded possibilities in Yosemite National Park, go for a hike. And there had been no snow, but as we arrived, snow starts falling, and falling in abundance. And I'm thinking, wow, temperature just really dropped, and it's cold and snowy, so do we renegotiate our ideas? And my youngest looks up at me, and she's probably about 14 at the time, maybe 15. She looks at me, and she's like, we're going, aren't we? And I'm like, yeah, of course we're going. And you don't want to let your kid down, especially at that age that they kind of feel like you can do just about anything. So we check our gear, head to the backcountry. Now, I'm a minimalist, and this is one of the examples where I've kind of like pushed it a little bit too far, because we did not bring like a tent. I like building a shelter. And the temperature dropped to 13 degrees 2 nights in a row. And the snow was abundant. I'm thinking excess of a foot, probably 18 inches. So we hike out of Yosemite Valley back toward Little Yosemite Valley, which you pass a waterfall called Vernal Falls, and then Nevada Falls. We get back to a place that's commonly really crowded. There was nobody there. There was no, people don't necessarily go out often under these circumstances. So we had the place to ourselves, which was really quite nice. I must admit, I was a little bit concerned. If I wasn't able to start a fire, we might have had to hike out. And, yeah, you can do that, but you have to have an exit plan. When it's this cold and you got a kid with you, you have to know that you can make it out. The hike in, we pass places which are a gentle slope. But if you have cold temperatures and then a fresh snowfall, a gentle slope can start a slow slide, which in this case, there were areas that would have probably dropped 500 feet. So you just can't, stick that landing. Isn't going to work. So we were careful, and we hiked back. We got back, got a fire started, and I brought a tarp to make a shelter. And what you do is you build your fire, and you put your tarp there, and it radiates the heat back on you. Now, here's something that's important to keep in mind. Hot air rises, cold air, drops. So the gentle flow of air coming off the mountain is going to go in a direction that might be different than the predominant breeze. I mean, weather can change, right? But I had set my reflective tarp in such a way as to protect ourselves from what was then the predominant wind, which was gentle, but it was going one direction. Built the fire, and then that wind stopped, and it was just a really gentle downflow of cold air coming off the mountain, which took all of the heat that would be radiated back on us and just blew it away. Ever so gently, just enough to know that you're not successful. And one of the things I felt kind of bad about, at one point my daughter went to the bathroom, and the sound is muffled because of the snow and falling snow and the rest of it. And I feel really bad because she came back, and I knew she'd be able to find her way through the tracks and stuff like that, but she had that expression like, yo, what's up? I was calling for you. I feel really bad. You hate to think your kids, or for that matter, anybody, especially when you're kind of like the guide in the mountains, causing somebody undue distress. And in this case, if she was calling my name and I wasn't answering, that would be one of those situations. I felt really quite bad about it. But we regrouped, and in our minimalist sort of way, I explained to her that really under extreme circumstances, the most extreme circumstances, you kind of want to make sure that everything you have is necessary. Because if you're bringing extra gear, everybody's got different approaches, but I don't like the idea of bringing things that I don't use. Because it's just extra weight. It's kind of like life, it kind of applies to life in certain ways, you know what I mean? Like, especially in America, we've got so many things. It ends up being more of a responsibility than an asset. You just spend all your time trying to keep track of all these things. It's going to scratch, devalue, whatever, right? So in this case, it's 13 degrees and all of our things. We have all of our clothes on, all layers on, right? We lay down our ponchos on top of the snow, and little shelter, get the fire going, gather wood as fast as we can. Can't really move fast in like 18 inches of fresh snowfall. So we build up a good stack of wood, and get ready to go to sleep. And it was really funny because in the morning we both said the same thing, like, I can't believe you were sleeping, because it was really flipping cold. We had sleeping bags, good sleeping bags, and all of our clothes on, and it was flipping cold. And every time you'd wake up, which was often, you'd look and you're like, I can't believe you're sleeping. And apparently she was doing the same with me. Anyway, we were able to get some sleep at night. It was just absolutely pristine, incredibly beautiful, right? In the morning, we load up, and I'm trying to think, what did we do with our boots? Probably kept them in our sleeping bags because they get really cold at night. But it was so cold that the rubber gets stiff. So both of our boots just split, like open. Now, that's a real issue. Because if you've got to, go many miles through very cold circumstances without shoes, you'd be disappointed. So I had some parachute cords, kind of like a thin rope. Tied that around to hold the rubber to the, to the boot. Then you have to hold that parachute cord in place. And you really need to be able to, remedy these situations. It's a serious situation. So I had some tape so I could hold the parachute cord in place, and our boots held up. Both of our boots got ruined. And we made it out. I mean, it was pristine. It was incredible. Winter camping is really, really awesome. By the way, don't carry water. Bring a stove and melt the snow. You got to melt a lot of snow to make water, but especially in places like Mount Shasta, I see people carrying like huge jugs of water. Water's really heavy, like 9 pounds a gallon. So you can save yourself a lot of effort by bringing a little stove and what have you. Anyway, we got out, and one of the things that's kind of interesting is after being in the backcountry, you're moving so slow. We get in the car and we start driving. And I don't know if it was that trip. I remember one time the speed limit in Yosemite is 35 miles an hour, and we had been back for quite a while. So I think it was a different trip. But I remember I was having trouble going 35 miles an hour. It just seemed like it was too fast. And I remember, actually, that was in the old truck. And I remember being like, wow, the seats are so soft. Because, you're sitting on rocks the whole time. Anyway, winter camping, a lot of fun. Look out for certain things. If you hear the sound of water, you might be walking over a river. If you fall through a thin layer of ice into a river, you'll end up under the ice and you will die. Other things to look out for is like when in the Sierras here in California, the snow gets really, really deep. So if you fall in a hole, like next to in the springtime, the rocks radiate heat and will melt and create like big, we got like huge snowfalls here. So if you fall into a tree well where the pine trees have kept snow off the ground, like these are hazards that you have to really look out for. I think the water is the one that is probably least obvious and really problematic. So have a good time in the snow. Be careful, and that's just another one of Terry's travel tales.